What's up, guys? I'm Tier 1 Collections, back with another video. Today in this video I'm going to talk about the difference in returns when it comes to sealed product versus raw cards or graded cards.
I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got it.
Alright, so try to hammer home this point that I'm talking about. I want to look at Destin Rivals. This is very interesting because it really hasn't happened in this early in a set's release in a long time. Mega Evolution's kind of heading that way too. But we were looking at pretty much on release date for Destin Rivals at about just over $200, like $225. We have in July them jumped to about $250, and then they've pretty much steadily increased now with a fat jump there at the end, about $50 to the booster box. It looks like right now you can get them for about $425, $430, plus $15 shipping for $400. So there's options out there. But I mean, pretty much, it's well over double MSRP in price. And the question is, why is that? Now, specifically with Destin Rivals, we've talked about it before. The singles in this set are amazing. Just the top hits alone. We haven't really seen a set other than Prismatic, and I still classify that as an outlier because, it's a special set and it's only SIRs, no illustration rares. We have we have 6 cards over $100, and then we have a bunch neighboring around 50. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then some at closer to 75. So, there's a good amount here, and this set is loaded. I've said it before, but not to beat a dead horse. It's interesting to look at the progression of some of the top cards and against the sealed product. So, if you were to buy both, which one is going to perform better? Okay, so this is just a rough spreadsheet I made of what it would look like from booster box, price paid on month of release versus now, and same thing for the Mewtwo and the Garchomp, just as examples. So we have price paid for the booster box, again, within the first 30 days of release, or if pre-ordered, whatever, was around $225, just a little bit over MSRP, a little bit, I'd say like $50 more. And then the value now is about $425. That's just kind of a rough estimate. I think it's still kind of finding itself right now. But just for sheer numbers, we're looking at about $200 in, passive profit. So that's really good in the span of 3 months. It's almost, 100% profit, which is really, really good. But if you compare it to the Mewtwo, which would be, now you could also do a passive investment. Now, you can kind of combine the two as well. I think that just buying the raw card is not really the intention here. I think buying, when the new sets come out and finding the cards kind of, within, not right at release, but maybe, 2 to 3 weeks after release, and then maybe a month after that. So you have about a month window after the card is released to find the clean copies of some of the better cards in the set, and then sitting on the PSA 10 versions of those. Now, personally, you could just buy the PSA 10. Like if you would have bought the Mewtwo PSA 10, 2 months ago, and even less than that, about a month and a half ago, it would have been $1,000, and now it's worth about $2,000. We can look at, here's Card Ladder. We had 2 sell today, 18 and 19 respectively. One sold yesterday at 20, 25. So, we have a lot of, you could have made, $1,000 off of that card. Not necessarily the point. I personally, unless it's super low pop, Japanese promos or something like that, I would never go and purchase the slab outright. Obviously, this is I do most of my stuff on buying raw cards and grading them, as you guys know. So personally, what I would do in this situation was, pick up a couple of copies of this card, clean, and then this is the time when eBay listings are king, because everybody floods the market within the first couple weeks. And if you overpay a little bit. Usually, if it's clean, it's clean, and that's what I tell everyone. Not every card can be in grading play as long as it's clean. It's clean. But it's interesting to look at the difference in prices when we're seeing, the booster box, again, way less risk involved, and we're seeing, a $200 profit in about 3 months, and then, I guess it's about 4 months now, and then the Mewtwo is about really, really close to that at $175. Now, if you had, bought this card at $350 and then tenned it at PSA and sat on it, it's a much better investment long term, obviously, because I have two of these actually, and one of them, I mean, I bought them both for $350. And right when the first one came back, I PC'd it because I was collecting all the Destin Rival sets. And in between then, now it's worth $2,000. And since then, I've had another one come back. And now, like I said, it's $1,900. So those are the type of things that I would sit on. The Garchomp was a little bit, I would say the numbers just aren't as vast. Garchomp got down to like 150 at a point, and now it's about 300 raw, so it's kind of jumped up. It was sitting at 200, 225 for the longest time, and then this Destin Rivals price hike really got it up there. The thing, specifically again with this set, is that there's so many good ones that sitting on the 10 of these two like bigger hits, and even I'd go out to say like I think all of these $100 SIRs is solid. Obviously the top hit is going to be the crown jewel of that, and it's going to dictate where that price goes in terms of the sealed stuff. So if the Mewtwo all of a sudden got I don't know, specifically printed a bunch or something. I don't know how it would happen. But if Mewtwo goes down in price because all of a sudden it's not as sought after, then the box price would fall as well. But this card sitting at 500, you have another one at 300, another one at 230 in the Ho-Oh. It's just, there's a ton of value in the box. So if you are hitting, there's 11 SIRs, I believe, in the set. And if you hit any of these 6, it's pretty solid. So that's part of why the box has increased. But I still think, now if you're looking for the less risk, sitting on a booster box on release day, if you get it for MSRP and you don't rip it, you just set it aside and just let it hold value, or you buy a case or whatever, that can be worth it. But what ends up happening over time, if you had this $225 just sit there and you made $200 over those 4 months, whereas you could have taken, the $350, or say you bought, a Garchomp every time and sent it to PSA, graded it, and then sold it, and then graded it and sold it, and you bought another one and sold it. You can turn that money over a lot more, where it's going to outperform the booster box prices. Now, again, there's less risk involved with sealed investments, as well as you don't really have to do much. So if you're looking for more active and to turn things over quickly and to make a bigger amount faster, then it would make more sense to go on the raw side of things. Just showing another example, this one's a little bit more drastic because there's really only one solid card in this set that the majority are going after right now. Now, I think there is some underrated cards in Salamence, and I really like the Volcanion as well. But specifically, when we look at Journey Together, let's look at the graph. I mean, it's pretty much held between 225 to 260. It peaked there in middle August. Now it's down to about 250, which I think is where it will sit. Journey Together is kind of, not the most sought after set, especially after, we've just had really good set after really good set. The last 3 have just really knocked it out of the park in Mega Evolution, Black Bolt, White Flare, and Destin Rivals. But when you take a look at the Clefairy pretty much bottomed out there in the middle of July, August at about $100. It's now up to about 150 to 180. This market price is not correct here. It's about 170. In near mint. But this is interesting because this card was actually a lot more expensive upon the release of Journey Together. There was some reasons for that, and that was because of just, market pumping and all that stuff. But even if you bought the Clefairy at $225, it would have outperformed... sorry, this is not correct. But if you would have bought the card raw and sat on the card raw, it wouldn't have outperformed. But if you had bought it raw and now sat on the PSA 10, you would have outperformed the booster box immensely. The booster box has hardly gained any traction. And I think that's the important part to understand, is that it's really hard as collectors and as businessmen, if you are both, it's really hard to take emotion out of the fight and understand that, not every set is the best set in the entire world. I was excited for Journey Together when it came out, and I still think it is slightly underrated. But, for example, I've tried to be better at this myself. Everybody was hyped about Black Bolt and White Flare, and that was kind of the one that I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. I just think that it was going to be significantly overrated. And lo and behold, we're seeing now that prices of Black Bolt and White Flare are going down, minus the monochrome cards. I mean, the SIRs just aren't fantastic, to just be completely honest. And I think that's what a lot of people are after right now. On top of that, I think people just prefer booster boxes over ETBs and whatnot. But it's interesting to look at Journey Together where we haven't seen an incredible gain or loss, really. I mean, it's pretty much stayed stagnant. I think if you would have bought, a ton of booster boxes, nobody's really going to be selling them right now at the, a $20 profit, or if any, depending on the price you purchase it at. But if you would have bought even Clefairies at the premium at what it was, and like we could even say this is $225, and it's jumped back up. We're seeing sales of Clefairy at pretty high, around $260 in a 10. So I think that's interesting to take into account. Journey Together is a kind of an anomaly set right now in regards to Surging Sparks is pretty similar, but I would argue that Surging Sparks has a better dispersion of heavy hitters in the SIR department. All right, here's just a better visual representation. For this example, I used the Cynthia's Garchomp. I basically said if you took the $225 and bought a booster box on release, or if you took, $250, I just did $245 plus, $5 shipping or whatever. And now this is not calculating tax. This is just a little ballpark area. It's not exact numbers. Again, you pay what you pay for the card and whatever. But so don't take this as exact numbers. But if you were to buy a Cynthia's Garchomp on release day, which it probably would have been a little too much, but let's say 2 weeks after release or whatever, you bought this, you value plus graded it. It would have cost you about $250 per card to grade. At the time, it was selling for about $550 in late June. Late July, or mid-July, it was about $600. August was about $650. And then now in September, it is $950. If we can look right now, it has just steadily increased, about $900, $950. So just taking that total, if you did one every single month, value plus, now I know it's updated turnaround time, but just as a past analysis for the last 4 months, if you would have bought that, 20-day turnaround time, it's about $40, plus the insured shipping would have been about $45. So you would have made in the month of June, if you sent a Garchomp June 1st, got it back, June 30th, you would have made $300. And then if you did it again in July, you would have made $350. You would have made $400, and then September you would have made $700. So, and then that brings your total up to $1,750. Now, again, this was active, and there is some risk involved. If you get a 9 in there, whatever happens, happens. But I think it would be pretty easy to say that you could easily find a clean Garchomp copy if you looked hard enough. After you send one off, it's going to be there for a month. You could go find another one. Obviously, it depends on your budget, and this is just an example that I chose for the numbers. But just to show that, passive and less risk, you do really well in a set like Destined Rivals. But, if you're active and you turn this over in the same amount of time, if you took that initial 200, you're looking at $1,750. Now, if you didn't send these, if you send one off and now you start looking for the next one, and if you come across it, you purchase it, obviously you can't necessarily wait until it comes back to sell it to get your profit and then, buy whatever. But you could wait till it comes back. Now you go buy 2, because now you have $550 back from the card, so you should be able to afford, buying 2 raw Garchomps, grade them, do the same thing, you know what I mean? And it compounds, not necessarily exponentially, because there is some ambiguity to that, but it does raise a lot quicker in terms of value. Obviously, it's not necessarily always about the same card, but this is just to show you how that would have played out the last 4 months if you just bought, every single clean Garchomp that you saw, basically one a month. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments section, as well as if you need some more one-on-one help, join the Discord down below. The link will be in the description. We're building a community there. A lot of people are helping each other out, sending pictures of their singles prior to them being sent off to PSA and graded, even selling help. You name it, anything in the Pokemon hobby, these guys are pretty good at. So make sure you join the Discord, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.
I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple